colleague, Khenpo Sodargye. We're very privileged to have him in the centre. He's probably one of the highest lamas from Tibet. And I'll tell you a little bit about him. He trained closely with His Holiness Jigme Punsak Rinpoche, a very great master, and an incarnation of Turtan Sogyal Lerak Rinpa. As a Tibetan Lama, a Buddhist scholar and teacher, a prolific translator into Chinese, and a modern Buddhist thinker, Rinpoche is renowned across Asia and the West for his interest in the integration of traditional Buddhist teachings with global issues and modern life. He has been invited and lectured at more than 100 prestigious universities around the world. In 1999, at the Lurunga Five Sciences Buddhist Academy, it was identified as by the New York Times as one of the largest and most influential centers for Buddhist study around the world. Sodargye. So I welcome you all, and I would also like to say thank you to the Amitabha Care Centre for bringing Rinpoche to Africa, and we hope this is going to be the first of very many visits to receive teachings from such a high Lama, and such precious teachings from a precious teacher. And thank you very much, Amitabha Care Centre. And Rinpoche goes to, he usually lectures at universities, and from here he goes to the lecture at Cape Town University. And okay, so we're very, very privileged to have Rinpoche. I hope you will enjoy the teaching and absorb something from it. Thank you very much.
Today we are gathered here at this center. Let's also discuss and exchange ideas about Buddhist teachings with everyone. The reason I am here right now is simply because I have just arrived, having come all the way from London, England. I literally flew for 12 hours. I haven't even gone to the hotel yet. I'm still on the road. In the original plan, we didn't have this lecture arranged. But some of the Buddhist enthusiasts from our center here, there is such an interest. So I didn't refuse, and I'm also very willing. I'm very happy to form such a positive connection with everyone. I see that among us here right now, although I haven't been exposed to it for very long, everyone has unwavering and strong faith in Buddhism, especially in their daily lives, and in the purification of their own minds, with a strong sense of great confidence and genuine, sincere interest. Just now, someone suggested talking about dependent origination and emptiness, and others mentioned traditions such as Yogacara and Madhyamaka, while some wanted to discuss certain aspects of Buddhism as a whole from a broader, more structural perspective, including an explanation of the four Dharma seals. So I'd like to first give everyone a brief introduction. The four Dharma seals of Buddhism. If time permits, I will also discuss with you in more detail and depth some of your related requests or questions about the Dharma. The so-called four Dharma seals, as Shakyamuni Buddha has already explained in the sutras, summarize all the 84,000 teachings that the Buddha expounded. if we condense them, they provide a simple method for personal practice. So what kind of methods are there? At that time, some disciples asked the Buddha. The Buddha said there are 4 kinds of Dharma. What are these 4 kinds of Dharma? First is all composite phenomena are impermanent. All phenomena are impermanent. The second is all contaminated phenomena are suffering. That is to say, although we may experience happiness right now, it is still a form of suffering. The third is all phenomena lack self-existence. Each of us feels that there is a self, but when we examine it, we find that this so-called self is actually empty in nature. The fourth is Nirvana is peace. That is to say, when we truly realize emptiness, we'll attain liberation. So I will briefly introduce these 4 principles. First, let's talk about the impermanence of all compounded things. That is to say, all fabricated, conditioned phenomena are impermanent. So what does this mean? Whether it is the external world, the outside world that surrounds us, the material world, it is also changing moment by moment. There is nothing that is permanent and unchanging. Our inner world, our thoughts and intentions are also constantly changing, including the state of our families and our work situations, as well as a person's age, from childhood to youth, then to middle age, and finally to old age, and eventually leaving this world. So absolutely everything in this world is constantly changing, moment by moment. There is nothing that does not change. So many of us may not really be very clear about this. Though things change, people still have a kind of attachment to permanence. That is permanence, bliss, purity, and true self. We regard impure things as pure, things that are not permanent. We view impermanent things as permanent, things that have no self. We regard as self in our minds, and things that are not happiness, things that are suffering, we see as happiness. In fact, each of us may, according to some Buddhist views, there are permanence, bliss, purity, and true self. It is called 4 inverted thoughts. 4 inverted thoughts are a very serious kind of mental illness. Why is that? Because we know the truth about things. We have not come to a good understanding of them. This is a truly terrifying illness. If we come to understand, for example, that true nature of all phenomena is impermanent, that everything is impermanent, then in our lives, when many changes occur, such as people who once liked you may leave you, or your work, which in the past actually used to go smoothly, but later, for various reasons, or even your dearest loved one, maybe he left you when he was alive, or perhaps they pass away and leave you. But if we have never practiced contemplating impermanence, when they leave, we experience intense, overwhelming pain. If we are people who contemplate impermanence, when they leave, we will still feel some pain, but we won't be so attached or suffer as severely. That is why in Buddhism, it is often said that the practice of impermanence is something to be cultivated for a long time. If you have truly mastered the contemplation of impermanence regarding all things, then whatever happens in your life, no matter how unimaginable the fear or pain may be, you will be able to handle it with ease. Otherwise, many of us might have beautiful expectation. It will never change. But then, suddenly one day, when your life changes, you can't accept it at first. Some people might even immediately resort to suicide or instantly choose all sorts of negative actions. That is why in Buddhism, we always place great emphasis on everyone contemplating impermanence. Here, you also regularly engage in meditation. Many practitioners practice with faith, while others may not have faith. But nowadays, many people like to cultivate mindfulness through meditation, through practicing yoga, or by using other methods to adjust their inner state. This is really very good. However, in the course of practice, contemplating impermanence is truly the most meritorious practice, and it is without a doubt the most effective. If we practice other methods but do not cultivate impermanence, then such practices might help adjust your mind, but in the long run, they may not have a truly significant effect. Therefore, as Shakyamuni Buddha said in the sutras, as recorded, among all the footprints in the world, the elephant's footprint is the most beautiful and majestic, and among all practices, contemplating impermanence is the best. The merit of contemplating impermanence is greatest. Therefore, as practicing Buddhists, if we cultivate the contemplation of impermanence well, you will become more and more diligent. It will be impossible for you to be lax or lazy. You will realize that life will not last for a long time, and one day I will leave this world. When I leave, perhaps all the fame in the entire world, including the 8 worldly dharmas, none of them can be taken. So we must cultivate a virtuous practice, because only these virtuous deeds can accompany me through lifetime after lifetime. I can bring it with me. That's why many practitioners who are good at contemplating impermanence practice with great diligence. Even if you don't have faith in this aspect, as long as you have some sense of impermanence, you will make plans for whatever you do, and you won't be so lax. Otherwise, in some places where I've heard efficiency is low, maybe only one thing gets done in a whole day, and it just drags on. If things go on like this, even worldly, it's really not very good either. We should have a sense of urgency. This is the effect or merit of practicing impermanence. Next. All contaminated phenomena are suffering. All contaminated phenomena are suffering means many impermanent things in this world. As we just said, everything is impermanent, and since everything is impermanent, on the surface, it may seem like we are living very happily. Everything appears beautiful, especially dignified and joyful. But because it is impermanent, it will also become a kind of suffering for you. Some people say, Buddhism tells of the suffering of samsara, or the suffering of human life. It shouldn't be put that way. Because we have a lot of happiness, including many very joyful, incredibly memorable and special days in our lives. Actually, Buddhism does acknowledge the temporary happiness that appears. But what Buddhism fundamentally teaches is that all the goodness we currently have, when the time comes, will all burst like delicate, fragile bubbles. This kind of happiness is like a flash of lightning, like flowing water, like a rainbow. It will disappear almost completely, seemingly in a very short time. When it is gone from your life, a long period of prolonged suffering will follow. So we need to understand that in our lives, on the surface, it may seem that there is a lot of goodness everywhere. But behind it, deep within its very nature, there is truly a great deal of suffering. And such suffering, sometimes we may notice and feel it, and sometimes we may not be aware of it. But by its nature, it is either suffering itself, or it may become the root cause of suffering in the future. I often think it seems that some animals also suffer a lot, but perhaps the suffering of us humans is even greater. Because, for example, some of the animals that are living around us, in terms of desire, although they have some desire for the opposite sex, they are not as greedy as humans are. We crave status, we crave beautiful, fine clothes, we crave to travel and sightsee. So he actually has a lot of greed. Although animals have anger, their anger only flares up occasionally. Unlike us humans, who often argue with the family members and frequently quarrel with enemies, many people often harbor resentment and conflict. And then there is our jealousy. For some animals, their jealousy and the arrogance are not as severe as that of humans. So sometimes, perhaps, in certain situations, the suffering we experience from our afflictions even surpasses that of animals. If humans do not address these issues, we experience much suffering. Sometimes people themselves may not even realize it, but they still a lot of suffering. A couple of days ago, I read in a British newspaper that a person has all kinds of various different worries throughout their life. For example, about their career, their relationships, their work, including their future financial situation, and so on. As a result, over the course of a lifetime, basically every day, there are a certain number of hours spent. And when it is tallied up in old age, 5 years are often spent worrying. Over a lifetime, 5 years are spent in worry. Perhaps it's the same for each of us. If we tally up our own time, just the time spent worrying about this or that, it might add up to a very long period. So sometimes, as Buddhism says, all contaminated phenomena are suffering. We really need to understand this. If we recognize that there is a lot of suffering in samsara, if we adjust our minds properly, we will be able to live a more normal and reasonable life. The third point is about the all phenomena lack self-existence, because as we mentioned earlier, everything is impermanent. The reason for impermanence is suffering. But who is suffering? I am suffering. But where is this I? We need to search for it. If we don't investigate, everyone simply says, I am just me. What's there not to know? Everyone is searching for it. This is generally the common understanding among people. But if we truly try to find the I, it is very hard to locate. In Buddhism, there is a monk named Nagasena. He once had a dialogue with a king. The king said, I definitely exist. Then Nagasena asked, where exactly are you? Is your hand you? Is your head you? Your feet, your whole body, your skin, every part of you, and everything inside and out of you, separate them one by one. Which one exactly is the I that you speak of? Later, after analyzing, he truly just could not find it. My hand alone is not me either. Later he said, I am the sum of my whole body. But if I am the sum of my body, when each part of the body is separated, the I cannot be found. Then where exactly is the I within the sum? So this is what we, in the end, even the king himself realized that the so-called I is just a concept, just an attachment. When you truly try to search for it, he couldn't find it. Either it simply can't be found. This is what we call all phenomena lack self-existence. In other words, all phenomena are empty in nature. But every person, in fact, takes something inherently illusory and clings to it as self. This is an attachment every ordinary person has. If you view this from a scientific perspective, it holds true. Even Einstein and Newton, if you ask them to find it today, they wouldn't be able to either. It's just that Einstein and Newton have never taken a class on the selflessness and emptiness of prajna. I often feel that's a pity. If they had taken, they definitely would have at least understood part of the principle of selflessness. In that case, they wouldn't have suffered as much at death. This kind of teaching on selflessness and emptiness, in fact, no matter who you are, you should, without a doubt, start by learning it, then practice contemplation yourself, and eventually each of us, every day, is likely to be very attached to the self. And all my stuff, my house, my car, my family members, and so on. The self, and what belongs to the self, everyone, is searching for these from morning till night. But if we approach it in another way, using what Buddhism calls the Madhyamaka view, the Prajna philosophy, when we search from this perspective, this is not a legend, this is not a rumor, this is truly real. Everyone can use their own wisdom to observe it. It doesn't just rely on faith. You should use your own wisdom to examine it. The so-called self, apart from mere illusion, simply cannot be found. At that point, your life may truly, and perhaps even unexpectedly, become very meaningful. So I also encourage everyone to study more about the Madhyamaka. For example, Nagarjuna Bodhisattva's fundamental wisdom treatise of the middle way, as well as the emptiness philosophy in some Prajnaparamita sutras. In this way, although we still need to live our daily lives as usual, you still need to work, go to your job, and do whatever needs to be done just as before. You can't slack off, you still have to do it. But in the process, when you encounter difficulties, you won't be as fragile or as sensitive as you were before. Some people's suffering is caused by their sensitivity. Some people's suffering is due to their fragility. And other suffering is caused by having too many desires. So a lot of suffering is suffering we shouldn't have to endure, and much of it is created by ourselves. That's why I think if we study some teachings on emptiness, a lot of our suffering will at least be reduced. Finally, the fourth point is Nirvana's tranquility, or the bliss of cessation. So what this means is, in other words, let me clarify, we know that all phenomena are impermanent, and impermanence itself is suffering. The self that suffers is in truth empty. Once we truly, whether through theory or through our own practice, reach a state of realizing emptiness, and this realization of emptiness is not just temporary, but the true nature of all phenomena has been fully understood and thoroughly realized. At that point, many of the negative emotions in our mind, the afflictive and cognitive obscuration, these obstacles are completely just like seas that have been burned by fire, utterly destroyed and no longer exist. At that point, you are entirely, your mind is in a state of happiness without attachment. In other words, right now, every day we live with suffering and attachment. But at that time, you will have reached the ultimate sense of security. Currently, every day we experience anxiety about gain and loss. Maybe today is fine, but tomorrow we worry about this and then suffer over that issue. But through practicing emptiness, as we gradually reach the highest state in Buddhism, in your own experience, there will be no afflictions at all. This is, in a sense, a kind of cessation, a kind of happiness. So in the very end, everyone can indeed attain this state with effort. Some people, through a short period of practice, can reach the summit of spiritual cultivation, while others may need ascetic practice and to accumulate merit and battle with afflictions for a long time. Only then do they reach the peak of spiritual practice. After reaching the highest state, it's not because, for example, wealthy people, once they have money, they just enjoy it themselves. But some people, for example, after acquiring wealth, don't focus on enjoying themselves. Instead, they want to help those around them. These are the most noble people among us. In Buddhism, spiritual practice, there are advanced forms of practice, but the ultimate idea of Mahayana Buddhism is still selflessness and altruism, is that when you attain a supreme state of meditation or spiritual realization, at this time, you cannot be attached to this meditative bliss and cannot remain immersed in that joyful state. You will, in a natural and effortless way, find yourself helping, supporting, and ultimately liberating other sentient beings from their suffering, offering them kindness, compassion, and understanding as you guide them toward freedom. Benefiting others will inevitably become your main focus. At that time, each of us may feel that helping others is the greatest happiness. In fact, in our everyday lives as well, even people with just a little altruistic thinking may be able to feel this in their own lives, in their everyday experiences. I often have this feeling myself, maybe when I enjoy something or feel happiness, that happiness, as we know, doesn't necessarily last for a very long period of time. But if my actions bring happiness to others, then in my heart, there are simply no words that can truly, fully, or adequately describe the depth of this feeling, that kind of truly ultimate happiness. So the highest goal of Mahayana practice is ultimately to manifest in various ways, using all kinds of skillful means to help and bring benefit and happiness to all sentient beings in the world. This is what I wanted to share with you all here. Today,